So, just a few words on me for those who don't know me. I'm a professor of marketing, and I work in the business school of the University of New-Caledonia, and I'm the dean of the business school of the IAE, Institut d'Administration des Entreprises. And Delphine is a doctoral student working on resilience mechanism of consumers. So my topic is very much on consumer psychology, consumer behavior, how do consumers think, what do they feel, and how does this impact the way they act. So I've worked a lot on smoking and prohibiting, making young people stop smoking, stop drinking and driving. So I've made quite a lot of research on those topics. How can we make people understand and drive them so that they have the good behavior? And for food, we are in the same type of idea of trying to influence people so that they make the good behavior, they take the good actions for themselves. And Delphine cannot be here, she is actually in France mainland. Ça marche pas. Ça faut que ça sorte, ça ne fait pas le deuxième. Ok. Okay, so thank you. As an introduction, New Caledonia is facing a lot of regular stockouts. Very regularly you will find empty shelves as you see here, and it's not linked to the crisis that New Caledonia is facing now, because in fact this picture was taken before the crisis. So it's very common that you find shelves in supermarkets in New Caledonia, or also you can find signs like that, 1 kilo of flour that you can have only per family, or even for rice. So you see that it's even for very basic food, rice and flour. And so the question of this research is about how do New Caledonian people cope with these stockouts, and how do they adjust their consumption habits, what do they feel about it, and how do they maintain their lifestyle. So several concepts will be shown in this research. First, the concept of coping. So coping is defined as the thoughts and behavior mobilized to manage internal and external stressful situations. And there are two types of coping, what we call emotion-focused coping or problem-focused coping. So when you have a stressful situation, when, let's say, you have too much work, so this is your image, when you have emotion-focused coping, you could think of, okay, I have too much work, I'll go exercise, or I take a bath, or I give myself a pep talk, or I meditate. Just an example of and if you are problem-focused, you would rather say, okay, I work on managing my time, I ask for support, I establish a healthy boundaries, or I create a to-do list. So those are the two types of coping that we are going to study. How do consumers do? Are they emotion-focused or problem-focused? Second concept is the concept of resilience. Just to come back to what it was, resilience was a concept used in the resistance of material. The first person who used this, it was 1824, on material. And what is it? It is the power of ability of a material to return to its original form, position, etc., after being bent, compressed, or stretched. How does it come back to its original form? Here in Oceania, we use it a lot related to climate change. So that's why I chose this picture. So this is very much used, strategies to to bolster Oceanian resilience regarding climate change. In this research, we will look at it through this view of the consumer behavior, so what we call consumer resilience. So it's the ability of individuals to adapt their consumption behaviors in response to disruption or challenges. It involves the capacity to recover, adjust preferences, you can change your preferences, have specific strategies to maintain consumption patterns despite external shocks. There was a special issue of a Journal of Marketing Management on disruption and consumer resilience. So it's a very strong stream of research in marketing, what we call consumer resilience. So the objective of this research are the following: to explore the resilience mechanism employed by the Caledonian consumers in response to shortages of everyday consumer goods, so really bread, flour, rice, everyday consumer goods. This is an exploratory research. It will have, of course, a confirmatory facet later on in the thesis of Delphine. And there is also a second objective, is to compare the result to consumer for France mainland to see if the mental set is the same. But here we'll focus more on these Oceanian consumers. The method used is a triangulation of methods with a lot of different research, ethnography, looking what is on the net, group meetings, and face-to-face individual interviews. So here I will focus on the face-to-face individual interviews. 22 consumers in New Caledonia. You have the age range, 10 men, 22 women, 12 women, conducted in 2023 before the crisis. So the interviews lasted approximately 1 hour per person, and we asked about frequently purchased product, whether they were responsible for buying very regularly, reaction to stockouts, and coping strategies. How do they cope with this? And then we did what we call a lexical analysis. So we looked at the vocabulary used by the consumer. How do they express themselves? What we call a lexical analysis. And we found 3 different lexical fields. The first one, the larger one, is the one that is about purchase, stock outs, with the word buy, stores, need, commerce, order, out of stock, unavailable. I will give you some examples later. Second one was on the coping strategy. Of course, we didn't ask what is your coping strategy, but we discussed so that we could understand what the coping strategies were. So the keywords were search, find, wait, order. And we found a third dimension that is very interesting and that is very Oceanian. It's the temporal distance, as for Edward Hall and all his research. And the keywords were time, often, never, years. And we could see that for people here, time is very long and they take their time, and if you need time to find a product, not really a problem. I will come back to this idea. And then just for you to understand what we did, we had some tables like that with the words, like you can see here, disponible, which means available, was said 123 times in all the, just to let you know how we proceed. It's like that, and we define what were the occurrences of each word. So globally we had several, then we moved, to a thematic analysis. So from the lexical analysis, we grouped the words into themes, and we call it thematic analysis. And the first theme that emerged, the larger one, was the emotions felt. I have it in the link for those, in the left for those who are more French, and I translated it on the right-hand side. So emotions felt were mostly negative emotions when they can't find the product they want to buy. deception, frustration, and suspicion. So deception, typical verbatim was, I am deceived because I really wanted this product, or it is annoying because it is very common in New Caledonia. Frustration would be a verbatim like, we're so bad that we can't even grow potato, even though we have so much land here. So, or suspicion toward the system, saying, well, the store, they have products in stock that don't sell, and they don't order enough product that sell well. It's incompetence. So a lot of people thought it was really the fault of distributors. Second theme was cognition, what they think. And they think, they understand. It's related to transportation. When there's a month of rain, there are fewer vegetables on your store. And they also de-dramatize. They really downplay. And they say, well, we make it do. We just have to wait a little bit. It's a little irritation. It's small. It doesn't stop me from leaving. So very, very philosophical. Then conation is what people do. So what they do is mostly active coping. First thing, they are very much into do-it-yourself. So they decide, for instance, this girl, she couldn't go find a book. She said, well, I found online courses, MOOCs video, and another one, well, we are going to make a vegetable garden, and we try to be proactive. So a lot of them are into this action. They find alternatives. I simply adapt my way of eating. Or they make stocks. As soon as the product is back in the shop, they buy a lot of it. Next theme would be positive thought with passive coping. So coping that is less active and that is more in the mind. So they have a very positive thinking. Well, we may do, it's not serious. Tonight I'll have a papaya salad and that's it. So very positive. And also alternatives, I'll wait, I'll accept it. Another theme was that they rely on the social group. And the group can be a social physical group and also a social media group. Social media play a huge role here on regulating this. So for the social group, for instance, they organize group orders. I've already ordered clothes and for kids in groups with friends. And social media, okay, through Facebook. Facebook is very developed here. They have the information on what's available, what's not available. So globally, the strategies, coping strategies are adaptability, flexibility. So here you have pictures of people, organizing a market and exchanging products, and they see that the system is not performing, so they organize a new system. They also become what we call prosumer, we call it like that in marketing, which is a product, someone who produces and consumes. So for instance, they start a garden and they grow their potato and they eat their potatoes. And third theme is they become also consumer producer. They do themselves and they are into what we call consumer to consumer approach. That is to say that the consumer sells to the consumer. I'll try to make it, but it's going to be tough. Also, a huge role of social networks with information on Facebook. Here you have some Facebook notifications saying you can find this and this. And group orders. Here you see people, ordering a lot of potatoes and then sharing what they found. The consumer actor, here a few examples. We did it in the university. Here the first one is we asked for people to give some food for the students. And on the below image you have the Banque Alimentaire, the alimentary bank, that gives food to the poor. So a lot of various off-market strategies. So globally, the consumer understands the reason behind the stockouts. They are very resilient and they downplay the issue, in fact. And implication for future research is that we began the comparison with French consumer in France. And the main difference, I can unveil this, is that the French consumers still believe in the system. So they will not build a parallel system, not at all. They find another system that would be correct for them and that would please them. Whereas here, they forget the system completely and they create a new system, a new market, a new Facebook group or something so that they find a solution. And this is very interesting. And also the relation to time. Here they have time and they take the time, whereas in France, they have this time pressure and they want it and they have to have it. And they very easily say, well, the government should interfere, and because as I'm referring to what we said, well, this is also the responsibility of the government and they should interfere. So, a lot to be said. I have an article on the conversation, it's in French, but for those who are interested, and a picture of my doctoral student, just for you to have an idea who she is. Thank you very much for your attention.
I found it very interesting, the way that they could adapt systems and create new systems. Do you think that we might be able to apply these findings to some other area in food?
I suppose I would like, to continue the research on cultural issues, especially with this dimension from Hofstede on individualistic versus collectivistic.
Yes.
And I suppose this would apply to more collectivistic culture.
Mm-hmm.
French mainland culture is much more individualistic in the way they answer. I will find a solution, I know. Whereas here, the solution is always a group solution. And it's very interesting the way they think in a group solution. So I think that it could apply to collectivistic cultures.
Yes, I was going to say establishing a community can be a very useful thing to change the behaviours of the group as a whole. Is there another question?
Thank you very much. I was just going to ask you about follow up on that issue of comparing it with France. I don't know, trying to think of what during lockdowns and that what the French did. I mean, one response which might have happened if there wasn't a lockdown would be, say, like farmers markets, where they bring their products direct to people in the towns. I'm sure they are in France. But during lockdowns, is there any insight into that? But I agree with you about this individual thing in France and the collective response here, because people look for collective solutions to lots of problems.
There is this individualistic, and also there is the time, relation to time.
Yeah.
Here time is really circular, so you just wait and it will come back. Whereas we have this perception of time this way, and when it's past, it's past. You cannot go back to the past. And I think this could also be a very nice thesis. But to answer your question on lockdown, in fact, the solution came from the distributors. All the distributors organized so that you could order online and they would deliver you the food at your home. So most of the solution came from the distributors who were just to continue our conversation, they were gathered by the French president who said, okay, what solution do you propose for my country? And all of them had this. In even small cities, you had this, more than the farm. And so in fact, you could order your food and the delivery was free, as long as you order more than €50, which is okay. And so, in fact, there wasn't too much shortages on food or even global products. There was at the beginning, because people were afraid and they stopped. Toilet papers, crazy.
Yeah, that was
completely crazy. But in fact, because it was not a question of production. It was more a question of, and France is very autonomous on production and food production.
I have a question here.
Thanks for your presentation. What you're saying now about France mainland seems to be focused mainly on supermarkets, but there are also a lot of farming markets and the AMAP system and the épicerie solidaire. I'm not sure how we could translate that into English. And many also collective order for organic products. So there are a lot of collective things happening. Maybe not everywhere, but it's quite active and growing and increasing. So how do you take that into account?
Well, in fact, it's a good remark, because in fact, the next step of Delphine would be, how does it affect the brand? So we took branded products, because the idea is, does it give value to the brand, or does it lower the brand value? Because we're very much into brand value and Keller work, etc. But I completely agree that there is this second type of market with AMAP organization, and this attracts people who want authentic products, organic mostly. So it's but it's still quite it's growing, but it's still a minority share of the food that is available for consumers. But we wanted to focus on brands. Then we focus on craft, Nutella, and then the second part of her thesis is on Coca-Cola and all this.
From my discussion and your talk, France seems pretty unusual in this respect. Are there other comparable countries? And if there are, what are the underlying factors that make some countries more sort of socially organized in that way and receptive to regulation than, say, Australia or the United States or the UK?
Well, it's a difficult question, but I'll try to answer. I think it's because we had, during long period, socialism presidents, and for long periods. So there is quite a large part of the population that is a little bit against capitalism. They think that capitalism is really making things too harsh and and always focusing on money. There is a lot of questioning about this. Even the Z generations, now, they arrive for a job interview. They don't ask how much do I earn. They say how much holidays do I have. And can I work online because I don't want to come every day to your office. No way. So there is this strong focus on lifestyle rather than making money. Maybe because if you don't make a lot of money, France is a country where it's nice to live because you will have quite a lot of support. So maybe you know that even if you are not very rich, you still have a quite nice life. Whereas in capitalistic countries, if you don't have money, you're miserable. So maybe this is linked to these long periods of we had some communism, but more recently socialism. I don't know. What do you think? Do you have any idea in this? Because you know France as me.
I don't know. I was thinking actually to the case of Nouvelle-Calédonie, and I was thinking that maybe this resilience that you were describing, it has a lot to do with the high prevalence of family farming. Knowing that people knows that even if they don't find this product at the supermarket, well, they will eat something else and they will not be starving because it's in the field. they will be able to find something to,
Yeah.
to eat instead.
Mm.
So
Or
yeah,
fish.
I think it's really. I don't know what's your opinion on this, but I think it is. But yeah, actually, what you said about France, the fact that people are valorizing much more the quality of life than purely monetary revenues. Yeah, in this
It's very-
I completely agree
Yeah.
with you.
It's very strong.
I can say I was in China. I spent quite a lot of time in China just after the lockdown, and there, okay, it's not socialism, it's communism.
Yeah.
More regulation is not what people are happy about. Okay. Especially since they were suspicious of corruption,
Yes.
being locked up in the lockdown, like way of saying it, and being reliant on food delivery services that were making huge amounts of money, and they were suspicious of connecting.
Ah, okay. Whereas in France, we really see the state as a shield that will protect you.
Yes.
We really have this idea of the role of the state protecting. And even the president, when he comes, I made also an article on, looking at President Macron, how he expressed himself with lexical analysis. He uses the word war, we are at war, etc. And then we as a state are going to protect you, and the shield. There is even a law that is called the shield law. So it's really a strong vocabulary that we use. And we are still very confident in the capacity of the state to do this. And there's not much suspicion.
So you had a comment, did you?
Yes, actually, I had a question, but I think the comments we can do answer.
Oh, okay. And did you have a comment?
Yeah, maybe something just a little bit provocative, because we talked about marketing. But marketing, I understand your point, marketing is a process, and this is the food industry pushing for marketing towards these brands. So shall we brand carrots and veggies? Like maybe they are not branded enough, so they don't have any space.
Of course. It's a very good question. And there's been a lot done in this. There, like Pink Lady, you know the Pink Lady apple? It's a brand.
Yes.
It doesn't exist, Pink Lady. It's not a type of, it's a brand. So there are a lot of things done. There is also this very nice campaign that was made on ugly food, les fruits moches, ugly food, you have that. And because usually they are spoiled and we just throw them away.
It would be really powerful that would take a space and potentially reduce the space.
Yeah, that's what we want.
So there is.
This is what you thought.
One of the main successful example is this Pink Lady for apples, but it's difficult to spread because you have small producers and they need to agree. But this is one strong movement that we need to brand because people memorize brands. So we need to adapt the offer to how they think, because otherwise, and the memory is really on brands. So if you don't have any brand, you don't memorize it.